few big fights coming up, and after what seems like forever, it looks like Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte is finally happening. Are you excited by that?
I'm very excited. I mean, every time Tyson fights, I'm excited. He's obviously my mate. And lately, every fight he's in is an absolute barnstormer, and I think this could be another one. I'm absolutely delighted for Dillian. You know, he's been #1 contender forever and a day, and he could have got a little bit off, as they say, and thought, I'm not having enough of this, sat on the sidelines forever and a day. But he's kept at it, he's kept in the gym, he's kept training, you know what I mean? And it was heartbreaking for him. He had that setback when he got knocked out by Povetkin, you know what I mean? You think, he's worked so hard to get there, and then he got beat, but he put the record straight, and now he's got his just reward, so I'm delighted for him, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. British fights are always big fights, as you know, but I mean, people are saying this is the biggest British heavyweight fight since Bruno Lewis. Do you think that's a fair?
I think it's a compliment to heavyweight boxing in Great Britain at the minute, innit? That we're all talking about, Tyson and AJ, getting it on and all that, and no, and I think that's the one everyone wants to see. But I mean, we've got Tyson and Dillian Whyte, which we want AJ and Tyson, but we've got Tyson and Dillian Whyte, which is probably going to be the second biggest heavyweight fight in British heavyweight boxing history, which speaks volumes for how good the heavyweight division is in Britain at this time. And I think it's a great clash of styles. I mean, and be interesting to see what style Tyson uses in this fight.
Well, that's it, because like the first, when you're heavily involved, that first fight against Deontay Wilder is almost like a boxing masterclass, wasn't it? Yeah. And dodging and weaving. The last two fights, he's gone at him.
Yeah, well, the last two camps, since he's moved camps, hasn't he? I'm not saying it's been a bad move, but I mean, he's because he fought Wilder in the rematch and absolutely destroyed him. And then he fought him in the third match, and it was a little bit of a roller coaster again, wasn't it? Which I think we've got to give Deontay Wilder his credit. I don't think a lot of people we didn't think he'd had that performance in him, did we? So full credit to him. But I think Tyson might have to go back to the old Tyson for fighting Dillian. I think it doesn't need me to say that, as far as speed and ability and movement goes, Tyson is head and shoulders above Dillian. And the only, and the chance that Dillian has is if he clocks Tyson. And the more Tyson stands there and trades, like he's done in his last two fights, I think the more chance he offers Dillian. Because Dillian will hit you and he'll lay you out. And, I think if Dillian hits Tyson full first, I'm just wondering how often can my mate keep getting up off his arse and from these heavy knockdowns. I think one time his luck might run out. So I think he's got to be a little bit more sensible in this next fight and, choose his moments, especially early, pick him off early, but box him, take the sting out of him first and then put his foot down a bit down the home straight. But I think he's got to be a little bit more cautious and show Dillian the respect he deserves, because Dillian can hit, man. Yeah.
Yeah, because that last fight against Wilder, everyone's saying it went straight into the top 10 of best all-time fights ever. I mean, not one for the purists.
I'm sick of my mate Tyson being in the best fights, some of the best fights ever in heavyweight history. But no, I think he's from a very, very good camp, and Tyson's very, very knowledgeable. He's got good people around him to advise him. And I think, I'm not saying he should go and, run a mile away from Dillian, because Tyson's proved he can have it out with people. But I just think he gives up all his advantages if he goes toe-to-toe with Dillian. That's what Dillian likes. Dillian likes a toe-to-toe. Dillian likes a slugfest. But Tyson's got so many more, no disrespect to Dillian, he's got so many more attributes in his hand. He's got the height and reach. He can go southpaw. He can go orthodox. He can stand there, can have it out. He can box and move. He can use his defence and sit on the ropes where, for me, I think Tyson would be a fool to give all them attributes up and just go to war, because that's what Dillian likes. My whole week would be ruined. Well, my whole month would be ruined if I went and performed and the fans were bored. Do you know what I mean? It's, your legacy is not just bent on the belts you win, it's the fights you're involved in and the manner of how you win them fights. So with them fights, Tyson has added to his legacy even more. He didn't even need to add to his legacy what he'd already done. But being in that barnstormer last time out will just add to his legacy. He's not just all talk. He can box, he can move, he can talk, and he can have a scrap. and get up off the floor. And just so he's ticked all the boxes for me, Tyson. Tyson's worked so hard to get in the position where he's got. And Tyson does want AJ. And he knows if he takes his eye off the ball against Dillian, then that fight will never happen. So I think he'll be on the ball. I think he'll know exactly what's going on. And at the end of the day, ultimately, he's got to be on the ball. It's a massive fight, dangerous fight, massive fight. The biggest fight since Bruno Lewis. And bearing in mind how he's burnt the candle at both ends, you know, with his body, not just what he's done in the ring, what he's done out the ring. You know, you wonder, because it certainly happened with my body. 1 minute, you know, your body says, I've had enough here, you know, I can't do it anymore. You've done me in the ring, you've done me in out the ring, you know, I've only got a few fights left in me. And that's what your body does. And I think surely with the fights he's been in and what he's done, Tyson must be coming to that stage now. So for me as a friend and as a British boxing fan, you'd like to see Tyson, you know, putting on a great performance about Dillian, get the AJ fight and get out for me.
When we talked about Tyson's approach to this fight. How does Dillian approach it?
I think with Dillian's got to, you know, I mean, Dillian's got to do what he does best. He's a great presser fighter. He's in your face all the time. Do you know what I mean? And he's just got to try and draw Tyson in. And you look at Tyson 9 times out of 10. There's a reason why Tyson has been on his backside a few times, not just in the Wilder fights, but in a few fights, you know, previous, is because he can get drawn in. So Dillian will be in training camp and thinking to himself, listen, if I have the right tactics, stay in his face, cut the ring down enough and keep enough pressure on him, you know, eventually I will draw him in because, you know, if Dillian will be thinking to himself, Tyson won't be able to help himself. He's a fighting man who want to go at it with me. And if I can just draw him into that fight, you know, I think that's what will be in Dillian's mind. You know, that I think Tyson can be drawn in, and as long as I do the things in the early rounds in order to draw him in, I might get what I want.
And you've also, as well, just to throw into the mix, you've got the occasion, Wembley Stadium, full Wembley Stadium. I mean, we know Tyson laps it up. I mean, do you think that'll have any effect on Dillian?
I don't know. I think Dillian's obviously boxed in front of big crowds. It'd be the biggest crowd that Dillian would have boxed in. But I mean, Dillian is a very determined man to be the #1 contender, you know, for like 2.5 years, sat on the outside and still waiting for your turn, still staying in the gym, still staying hungry. That just shows he's a real determined person. And he's been waiting forever and a day to get his title shot. Now he's got it. I don't think he'll be found wanting the nerve department. I don't think the crowd will put him off. I think when I've always fought in front of big crowds, but I mean, I relished that. I think them days of it, whether it be Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte, Ricky Hatton, Joe Kawasaki, you relish them days as a fighter. If you want to be a champion, you relish them days for having the big crowds. And I think Dillian will warm to it rather than crumble under it. Yeah.